On a quiet Sunday morning, I watched a woman at a cafe slide into a booth alone. She took out a book, wrapped both hands around a warm mug, and smiled. An unhurried, genuine smile, the kind that comes from settling into a moment instead of rushing toward the next one. She looked peaceful, grounded, content. 10 minutes later, the couple at the next table whispered about her. "Poor thing," the woman murmured. "I hope she finds someone," the man added, as though the woman's solitude were a temporary illness that required diagnosing. I remember thinking, what if she isn't waiting for anyone? What if she's already happy? Why? We live in a world that assumes everyone is searching for a missing piece. Singlehood is often treated as a limbo state, an awkward hallway connecting who you are now with who you're supposed to become once someone else chooses you. No matter how much we accomplish or how vibrant our friendships and passions may be, that persistent cultural script quietly suggests we're unfinished until we're partner. And yet, so many people discover that tying their happiness to a future relationship creates a specific kind of ache, the ache of postponing joy. Days blur together in anticipation of the real life that hasn't arrived. Moments that could be meaningful, solo vacations, long dinners with friends, new hobbies, career wins, lose some of their light because they're overshadowed by the idea that they're merely placeholders. This book began with a simple but radical question. What if your life is allowed to be beautiful right now? Not once you're coupled, not once someone calls you theirs. Now, in the chapters ahead, we'll challenge the stories you've been told about singlehood and uncover the habits, mental, emotional, and behavioral, that keep so many people trapped in worry or self-doubt. You'll meet people whose lives changed not because they found the one, but because they learned to treat themselves with clarity, compassion, and courage. You'll explore tools that help quiet the noise of comparison, dismantle old fears, and create a sense of stability and joy that can carry you through any relationship. Taitz. This is not a guide to pretending you don't want love. It's an invitation to stop abandoning your current life for a future fantasy. It's a reminder that connection comes in many shapes, and fulfillment grows from living in alignment with your values, not from chasing someone who validates them. Imagine waking up tomorrow and feeling that your life, with all its quirks, quiet moments, ambitions, and uncertainties, is already worth inhabiting fully. Imagine dating from a place of curiosity instead of panic. Imagine realizing you are not incomplete, you are in progress, you are becoming. This book is about that becoming. Let's begin. Chapter 1. The Problem with Happily Ever After Thinking. Many people grow up absorbing the message that long-term happiness depends on finding a romantic partner. From childhood stories to social norms, the idea of partnership as the ultimate destination becomes deeply ingrained. This belief shapes expectations and can lead to unnecessary pressure, especially when life does not follow the imagined timeline. When individuals internalize the idea that being single is a temporary or inferior phase, they may begin to view themselves as behind or incomplete, even when their lives are full in other ways. Societal pressure contributes heavily to this experience. Friends and family often ask about dating, engagement plans, or future relationships with the assumption that everyone must be seeking partnership. These conversations can unintentionally reinforce the belief that a person's value is tied to their romantic status. Over time, people may start to measure themselves against cultural milestones, marriage, children, shared homes, rather than considering whether those milestones align with their personal goals and values. Psychological research offers a different perspective. Studies show that well-being is influenced more by daily habits, emotional resilience, social connection, and purposeful living than by whether someone is in a relationship. Single individuals who cultivate strong friendships, meaningful work, and supportive communities often report high levels of life satisfaction. This challenges the assumption that romance is the primary path to happiness and highlights the importance of focusing on internal resources rather than external validation. Understanding this can help reframe singlehood in a healthier way. Instead of viewing it as a problem, singlehood can be seen as a valid, fulfilling life stage with its own opportunities for growth, exploration, and self-knowledge. It allows space for personal development, flexible decision-making, and the freedom to build a life aligned with one's values. When people shift their mindset from, "I need a partner to be fully happy," to, "I can build a meaningful life as I am," they often feel less anxious and more empowered. Ultimately, the problem is not singlehood itself, but the outdated cultural story surrounding it. By recognizing that happiness does not depend on a relationship, and by focusing on what truly supports well-being, connection, purpose, autonomy, self-compassion, individuals can reduce unnecessary pressure and begin to create a satisfying life, regardless of whether a partner is part of it. This mindset shift lays the foundation for healthier emotional habits and a more balanced approach to love and life moving forward. Chapter 2. Misjudging what makes us happy. Many people assume that entering a relationship will automatically solve feelings of loneliness, insecurity, or dissatisfaction. This assumption leads to what psychologists call affective forecasting errors, mistakes in predicting what will actually make us happier in the long term. While relationships can certainly offer joy, support, and companionship, they are not a guaranteed cure for emotional struggles. Individuals often overlook the fact that happiness depends more on daily actions and internal skills than on external circumstances. One common misconception is the belief that happiness will dramatically improve once a partner arrives. This future happiness mindset can create a habit of postponing joy. People may delay adventures, personal projects, or self-care with the idea that these experiences will be more meaningful once shared with someone else. In reality, waiting for ideal conditions often prevents individuals from engaging fully in their lives as they are now. Another issue is that people frequently underestimate the challenges relationships bring. Partnerships require communication, compromise, emotional regulation, and the ability to navigate conflict. When individuals imagine a relationship only as a source of comfort and fulfillment, they may overlook the skills needed to maintain one. This unrealistic expectation can lead to disappointment if a relationship does not instantly provide the constant happiness they anticipated. Research suggests that sustainable happiness is closely linked to intentional behaviors, practices such as nurturing friendships, engaging in meaningful activities, maintaining physical and mental health, and developing emotional resilience. These are all things individuals can cultivate without a romantic partner. In many cases, those who invest in these areas before entering a relationship find that they bring greater clarity, stability, and confidence when they do begin dating. Understanding this can shift priorities in a helpful way. Instead of striving to fix singlehood by seeking a relationship as quickly as possible, individuals can focus on building a balanced and fulfilling life in the present. This includes exploring personal interests, strengthening social connections, and developing coping strategies that support emotional well-being. When people recognize that happiness is not something delivered by another person, they become more able to appreciate the value of their current lives and more open to healthier relationships in the future. The key insight is that while relationships can enrich life, they are not the foundation of happiness. Misjudging their impact often leads to unnecessary pressure and unrealistic expectations. By understanding what truly contributes to well-being, individuals can take ownership of their emotional health and create a sense of fulfillment that is stable and self-sustaining. Chapter 3. The Cost of Chronic Worry. Worrying about being single can become a constant background noise, subtle at times, overwhelming at others. When people repeatedly question why they are still single or fear they will remain that way, they often create a cycle of anxiety that affects their overall well-being. This type of worry rarely leads to productive change. Instead, it drains energy and narrows attention, making life feel smaller and more stressful. Over time, chronic worry can distort thinking, making ordinary experiences feel like signs of future unhappiness. One of the most damaging effects of persistent worry is how it shapes self-perception. When individuals repeatedly tell themselves that being single indicates failure, they begin to internalize these thoughts as facts. This can lead to self-criticism, comparisons with others, and a sense of inadequacy that influences decisions in both life and dating. The more people fear their relationship status, the more they may blame themselves, even when there is no evidence that anything is wrong. Chronic worry also impacts behavior. Under pressure, individuals may settle for relationships that do not meet their needs, pursue partners who are emotionally unavailable, or approach dating with urgency rather than clarity. Worry can make people overlook red flags or accept treatment that does not align with their values. Instead of choosing relationships based on compatibility and mutual respect, they may choose them simply to calm anxiety or avoid judgment. This often leads to more dissatisfaction rather than relief. Emotionally, persistent worry increases stress and decreases resilience. The mind becomes preoccupied with imagined future scenarios, leaving little room for presence or gratitude. This reduces the ability to enjoy meaningful parts of life, friendships, hobbies, accomplishments, and everyday pleasures, because so much attention is directed toward what is missing. Over time, the habit of worrying can overshadow moments that would otherwise bring joy or fulfillment. One helpful approach to reducing chronic worry is learning to observe thoughts without immediately believing or reacting to them. Techniques from mindfulness and acceptance-based approaches encourage individuals to notice fears without letting them dictate choices. Instead of asking, "What if I never find someone?" the focus shifts to what matters to me today. This shift does not erase the desire for connection. It simply places attention on actions that can genuinely improve well-being rather than feeding anxiety. Ultimately, chronic worry about singlehood limits both happiness and personal growth. By recognizing how worry affects self-esteem, decision-making, and emotional health, individuals can begin to interrupt the cycle and move toward a more grounded and compassionate way of relating to themselves. Building this awareness lays the foundation for greater stability and resilience, whether one is single or eventually in a relationship. Chapter 4: Mindfulness and Acceptance as Tools for Emotional Balance. Many people approach singlehood with a constant stream of internal commentary, worries about the future, judgments about themselves, or assumptions about what others are thinking. This mental noise can make life feel heavy and leave little room for calm, clarity, or joy. Mindfulness and acceptance-based practices offer a way to reduce the impact of these thoughts, not by eliminating them, but by changing how individuals relate to them. Instead of being pulled into every fear or self-criticism, mindfulness teaches the skill of stepping back and noticing thoughts without becoming controlled by them. Mindfulness begins with awareness, paying attention to the present moment without judgment. For someone struggling with anxiety about being single, this skill can be transformative. Thoughts such as "something is wrong with me" or "I'm running out of time" can feel like facts when they appear automatically and repeatedly. Mindfulness helps individuals recognize these as mental events, passing words and images created by the mind, rather than absolute truths. This simple shift can weaken the emotional grip of these thoughts. Another important aspect of mindfulness is learning to stay grounded in the current moment. When people are preoccupied with future scenarios, imagining never meeting someone, ending up alone, or falling behind peers, they often overlook the reality of their actual lives. Redirecting attention to what is happening right now allows space for more balanced thinking. Daily activities such as eating, walking, or working can become anchors that interrupt spirals of worry. With practice, individuals become better at returning to the present rather than getting swept away by predictions and fears. Acceptance complements mindfulness by addressing how individuals handle uncomfortable emotions. Many people try to escape feelings of loneliness, uncertainty, or disappointment by distracting themselves, overthinking, or attempting to control situations that are not actually controllable. While these strategies may provide temporary relief, they often intensify distress in the long run. Acceptance, in this context, does not mean giving up or becoming passive. It means acknowledging emotions as valid experiences and allowing them to come and go naturally. Accepting emotions can feel counterintuitive, especially for those who were taught to stay positive or not overthink. However, Research shows that resisting emotions often makes them stronger. When someone tells themselves they should not feel lonely or anxious, the pressure to stop feeling that way often increases the discomfort. Acceptance allows individuals to observe their emotions with compassion, recognizing that feeling unsure or vulnerable is a normal part of being human. This attitude creates space to respond intentionally rather than react impulsively. For example, someone may feel a wave of sadness after seeing a friend get engaged. Instead of criticizing themselves for feeling left behind or panicking about their own future, they can practice acknowledging the emotion. I'm feeling sad right now, and that's understandable. This type of response helps reduce shame and prevents small moments of discomfort from snowballing into larger emotional crises. It also supports self-kindness, which is essential for long-term well-being. A key benefit of mindfulness and acceptance is that they shift focus from controlling outcomes to managing actions. While no one can guarantee when or how they will meet a partner, they can choose how they treat themselves, how they spend their time, and how they care for their emotional health. This shift restores a sense of agency. Instead of waiting for external circumstances to determine happiness, individuals can take steps that improve their quality of life right now. These tools also support healthier dating experiences. When people date with high anxiety or desperation, they may overlook red flags or pursue relationships that do not align with their values. Mindfulness helps individuals stay present during interactions, evaluate compatibility more clearly, and notice their emotional responses without being overwhelmed by them. Acceptance allows them to handle the uncertainty of dating with more resilience. Instead of interpreting every unsuccessful date as a personal failure, they can see it as a normal part of the process. Ultimately, mindfulness and acceptance create emotional flexibility, the ability to experience thoughts and feelings without being dominated by them. This flexibility helps individuals navigate both singlehood and relationships with greater ease. By grounding themselves in the present, observing thoughts with openness, and allowing emotions to naturally unfold, they build a foundation of internal stability. This foundation supports not only personal growth, but also more genuine and balanced connections with others. These practices are not quick fixes. They require patience, repetition, and self-compassion. Over time, however, they can significantly reduce the psychological strain of singlehood and open the door to a richer, more peaceful way of living. Chapter 5. Strengthening Self-Compassion. One of the biggest obstacles to feeling satisfied while single is the tendency to judge yourself harshly. Many people hold themselves to unrealistic standards, believing they must look a certain way, be constantly interesting, or achieve certain life milestones by a certain age to be worthy of a relationship. This pressure often leads to chronic self-criticism, which not only harms emotional well-being, but also creates a sense of inadequacy that can interfere with both personal growth and healthy dating. Developing self-compassion is a powerful way to shift this internal climate from judgment to understanding. Self-compassion begins with recognizing that imperfection is part of the human experience. Everyone faces moments of loneliness, rejection, hesitation, or disappointment. Yet, when people encounter these experiences, they often believe they are alone in them. Comparing themselves with others, especially in a culture centered on curated social media images, can intensify this feeling. Self-compassion encourages individuals to see their struggles not as personal failures, but as normal aspects of life. This mindset broadens perspective and reduces the isolation that often accompanies self-criticism. Another important element of self-compassion is speaking to yourself with the same kindness you would offer a friend. Many people use language toward themselves that they would never direct at another person. Phrases like, "No one will ever want me," "I'm not good enough," or "I must be doing something wrong" create emotional wounds that accumulate over time. Replacing harsh self-talk with supportive, realistic messages does not mean ignoring areas for growth. It means acknowledging challenges without attacking your worth. A simple shift from "I'm failing" to "I'm learning and trying my best" can significantly change how you feel and behave. Self-compassion also involves the ability to sit with your emotions without judging them. People who are hard on themselves often label their feelings as weak, unnecessary, or dramatic. This judgment makes emotions feel more intense and can create a cycle of shame. Allowing yourself to feel sad, disappointed, or anxious without immediately trying to fix or invalidate those emotions builds emotional resilience. When emotions are treated with gentleness, they naturally become easier to manage. Practicing self-compassion does not mean avoiding responsibility. It means understanding that growth is more likely when you support yourself rather than punish yourself. Individuals who practice self-compassion tend to take more effective action, not less, because they approach challenges with clarity. Instead of being paralyzed by criticism, they can evaluate their choices, learn from experiences, and move forward with confidence. In the context of singlehood, this might mean adjusting dating patterns, setting healthier boundaries, or focusing on personal development, not out of fear, but out of care. Self-compassion also helps counteract the pressure to compare yourself to others. Comparisons often arise when individuals believe their timeline is off, or that everyone else is progressing faster. When people practice compassion, they become more grounded in their personal path rather than measuring themselves against external expectations. They can appreciate others' milestones without interpreting them as evidence of their own shortcomings. This shift reduces competitive thinking and allows for more authentic enjoyment of life's diverse trajectories. Additionally, self-compassion strengthens relationships of all kinds. People who feel secure within themselves are less likely to seek validation through unhealthy dynamics or to tolerate treatment that violates their values. Compassionate individuals tend to communicate more openly, set clearer boundaries, and engage in dating with more curiosity and less fear. They do not approach interactions from a place of desperation, but from a sense of self-respect. This creates space for healthier, more mutually supportive connections. Cultivating self-compassion takes time, especially for those who are used to relying on self-criticism as a motivator. Practical strategies can make this shift easier. Mindful awareness of negative self-talk, writing supportive statements to counter self-judgment, using physical grounding techniques such as placing a hand on the chest, and reflecting on shared humanity are all effective tools. Over time, these practices retrain the mind to respond to challenges with encouragement rather than attack. Ultimately, self-compassion is not simply about feeling better. It is about building a stable sense of worth that is not dependent on relationship status. When individuals treat themselves with understanding and care, they create emotional safety within their own lives. This foundation allows them to approach singlehood, dating, and personal growth with greater openness and resilience. It shifts the central question from "what is wrong with me?" to "how can I support myself in becoming who I want to be?" That shift is essential for cultivating genuine happiness and confidence. Chapter 6. Living a values-based life. Many people fall into the habit of organizing their lives around the pursuit of a relationship, often without realizing it. They delay important decisions, avoid taking risks, or shape their routines around what they imagine will make them more appealing to a future partner. This approach can leave life feeling stagnant and reduce a sense of personal fulfillment. A more empowering approach is to build a life guided by personal values, principles that reflect what genuinely matters to you, independent of relationship status. When individuals live in alignment with their values, they experience a deeper sense of purpose and satisfaction. Values differ from goals. Goals are specific outcomes, such as getting promoted or training for a marathon. Values are qualities of action, how you want to live, behave, and show up in the world. They are ongoing, not something to complete. For example, if you value creativity, you can express that through writing, art, music, or problem solving. If you value connection, you might strengthen friendships or engage in community activities. Values provide direction, offering clarity even when circumstances change. They also give life meaning, which reduces the pressure to rely on a relationship for fulfillment. Identifying values begins with honest reflection. Many people mistakenly adopt values that reflect external expectations rather than their true priorities. Someone might believe they value stability because society emphasizes traditional milestones, when in reality they value exploration or independence. Others assume they must prioritize family building, even if they deeply value personal growth, creativity, or service. Taking time to evaluate what genuinely matters helps individuals distinguish between internal motivations and external pressures. One effective method for clarifying values is to reflect on moments when you felt most alive or fulfilled. What were you doing? Who were you with? What qualities were present? Creativity, kindness, courage, curiosity, learning. These moments offer clues about what gives your life energy. Another approach is to consider how you want to be remembered. Describing the type of person you want others to see, honest, compassionate, adventurous, resilient, reveals the principles that matter most. These values can then guide decision-making in a grounded, intentional way. Living by values can significantly reduce anxiety about singlehood because it provides a sense of direction that does not depend on another person. When individuals pursue activities aligned with their values, they feel more engaged and motivated. They gain confidence from taking ownership of their choices rather than waiting for life to change. This shift often brings new opportunities, friendships, and experiences that enrich life on their own. Happiness becomes something created through daily actions rather than something deferred until the right relationship appears. Values-based living also influences dating in positive ways. When people have a clear sense of who they are and what matters to them, they become more discerning and less likely to settle out of fear or insecurity. They recognize when a partner's behavior conflicts with their principles, such as when they value honesty but encounter inconsistency, or when they value kindness but encounter indifference. Rather than trying to mold themselves to fit another person, they seek relationships that support and reflect their authentic selves. Additionally, living by values encourages psychological flexibility, the ability to adapt and respond effectively to challenges. When individuals face disappointment, such as a dating setback or a period of loneliness, values provide a stable anchor. Instead of withdrawing or blaming themselves, they can choose actions that align with who they want to be, reaching out to a friend, engaging in a meaningful hobby, or practicing self-care. These choices strengthen resilience and reinforce a sense of agency. Practicing values-based living requires consistency rather than perfection. It is normal to drift away from values at times, especially under stress or social pressure. The important part is noticing when this happens and gently redirecting behavior. Small steps, joining a club, volunteering, setting boundaries, taking a class, spending time in nature, can have a significant impact over time. Each action reinforces the identity of someone who is living intentionally and authentically. Ultimately, building a life around your values creates a sense of wholeness that is not dependent on relationship status. When you feel connected to your purpose, supported by meaningful relationships, and engaged in activities that inspire you, singlehood becomes less about what's missing and more about what's unfolding. You create a life that feels meaningful today, not someday. And whether or not a partner eventually enters the picture, the foundation you build through values-based living remains strong, stable, and deeply fulfilling. Chapter 7. Expanding your sources of connection. Many people place enormous emotional weight on romantic relationships, often without realizing it. They expect a partner to meet needs for comfort, companionship, encouragement, validation, and shared experience. While these needs are natural, relying on a single person to fulfill all of them can create pressure and limit opportunities for meaningful connection elsewhere. A more balanced, sustainable approach to emotional well-being is to cultivate a variety of supportive relationships, including friendships, family ties, when healthy, community involvement, and personal interests that connect you with others. Expanding your sources of connection begins with understanding that humans are wired for social interaction in many forms, not just romantic bonding. Friendships, for example, provide essential emotional support, shared experiences, and mutual understanding. Strong friendships can reduce feelings of loneliness, increase resilience, and create a stable sense of belonging. When individuals invest time and care into these relationships, they build a network that enriches life regardless of their relationship status. Another important source of connection comes from participating in communities, whether based on shared interests, cultural backgrounds, activism, hobbies, or professional goals. Community involvement offers a sense of purpose and collective identity. It allows individuals to contribute to something larger than themselves, which can deepen their sense of fulfillment. Joining clubs, volunteering, attending local events, or engaging in group activities creates opportunities for meaningful interaction and broadens social circles in natural, low-pressure ways. Family connections can play a supportive role as well, provided those relationships are healthy and balanced. Family members can offer continuity, history, and understanding that deepen emotional grounding. However, it is important to differentiate between supportive family connections and those that feel judgmental or intrusive about singlehood. When family relationships are helpful, maintaining them strengthens emotional security. When they are not, setting boundaries becomes an essential form of self-care. Another often overlooked source of connection is the relationship individuals build with themselves. Engaging in meaningful activities such as reading, creative projects, exercise, or reflective practices fosters a deeper sense of identity and internal alignment. When people develop interests they genuinely enjoy, they feel more connected to their own values and more grounded emotionally. This internal connection supports confidence and reduces the sense of urgency often associated with dating. Cultivating diverse forms of connection also helps reduce the tendency to idealize romantic relationships. When individuals rely on partnerships as their primary or only source of emotional fulfillment, they may place unrealistic expectations on dating or become overly distressed by periods of singlehood. By maintaining strong friendships, community ties, and personal interests, they create a more stable emotional ecosystem. This balance not only promotes happiness, but also supports healthier, less pressure-filled dating experiences. Expanding connections often involves intentional effort. Many adults find that friendships become harder to maintain as schedules fill and priorities shift. Nonetheless, consistent small actions, sending a message to check in, planning a meal together, attending a class with someone, or showing up for important moments, strengthen bonds over time. Likewise, joining new groups or activities may feel uncomfortable at first, but engaging in shared experiences helps relationships form naturally. It is also important to recognize that connection is not only about quantity, but also quality. A few supportive, authentic relationships often provide more emotional nourishment than a large network of superficial contacts. Investing in relationships that allow for honest communication, mutual respect, and shared joy contributes significantly to overall well-being. These deeper connections help individuals feel known and valued, independent of romantic involvement. By broadening the sources of connection in your life, you reduce the emotional burden placed on romantic outcomes. You become less dependent on any single relationship for your happiness and more rooted in a network of meaningful ties. This shift can decrease anxiety, improve mental health, and foster a greater sense of belonging. It also enhances your ability to approach potential relationships with openness, confidence, and calm, rather than urgency or fear. Ultimately, expanding your sources of connection strengthens your overall emotional foundation. It reminds you that love exists in many forms and that a full life is built through diverse, supportive relationships. When you cultivate multiple channels of connection, your world becomes bigger, richer, and more resilient, whether or not a romantic partner is currently part of it. Chapter 8. Dating with Clarity and Confidence. Dating often becomes stressful when approached with urgency, pressure, or fear. Many people enter the dating world feeling as though they must prove themselves, avoid rejection at all costs, or hurry up to meet relationship milestones. This mindset can make dating feel more like an evaluation process than a genuine opportunity to connect. Dating with clarity and confidence begins with reshaping the purpose of dating, from a high-stakes search for validation to a low-pressure exploration of compatibility, values, and mutual interest. Clarity starts with understanding your intentions. Many individuals date without considering what they truly want or what kind of relationship aligns with their values. Some may pursue dating simply because they feel it is expected of them, while others may approach it as a way to soothe anxiety rather than to build meaningful connections. Taking time to define what matters, such as emotional availability, shared values, communication style, or long-term compatibility, helps guide decisions and reduces confusion. When intentions are clear, dating becomes more focused and less overwhelming. Confidence in dating does not come from feeling perfect or from having a flawless history. It comes from knowing your worth and recognizing that compatibility is a two-way process. Instead of worrying whether someone will like you, confidence allows you to ask whether you genuinely enjoy the interaction. This shift reduces the fear of rejection because the goal is no longer to secure approval, but to discover whether the connection is mutually supportive. With this mindset, a declined match or an unsatisfying date becomes information, not a personal failure. Another important aspect of dating with confidence is maintaining realistic expectations. No date should be expected to confirm your future or solve emotional needs. Unrealistic expectations often lead to disappointment and unnecessary pressure. Viewing early dates as opportunities to learn about another person, not to predict lifelong compatibility, helps maintain a balanced perspective. Approaching each interaction with curiosity rather than anxiety creates a more enjoyable and authentic experience for both people involved. Healthy dating also requires attention to boundaries. Boundaries are not barriers. They are guidelines that protect emotional well-being and ensure that actions align with values. Examples include pacing the relationship at a comfortable speed, taking time to reflect after dates, and declining situations that feel rushed or pressured. Maintaining boundaries helps prevent burnout and discourages settling for connections that do not support your emotional health. Boundaries also foster self-respect, which strengthens confidence throughout the dating process. Open communication is another essential component of clarity in dating. Many people avoid expressing their needs or intentions because they fear being seen as demanding or vulnerable. However, honest communication increases emotional safety and clarity for both partners. Expressing preferences, such as wanting to build a meaningful connection, needing emotional consistency, or preferring slow and intentional dating, reduces misunderstandings and helps identify compatibility early. Clear communication also encourages others to be transparent, which supports healthier interactions. Dating with clarity also involves paying attention to your emotional responses. People often ignore their instincts or feelings in an attempt to make a connection work. Noticing how you feel during and after interactions provides valuable insight. Do you feel calm, respected, and comfortable? Or do you feel anxious, unsure, or drained? Emotional cues can reveal more about compatibility than surface-level qualities. Respecting these cues increases chances of finding relationships that are genuinely supportive rather than simply distracting. It is equally important to recognize that dating involves uncertainty, and uncertainty can be uncomfortable. Building tolerance for this uncertainty reduces the urge to rush decisions or force clarity before it naturally develops. Accepting that not every date will lead to something meaningful allows the process to unfold more naturally and reduces pressure. This mindset supports a healthier approach where the focus is on present experience rather than future outcomes. Approaching dating with clarity and confidence also means giving yourself permission to take breaks. When dating begins to feel exhausting or discouraging, stepping back to recharge can prevent resentment and reduce emotional fatigue. Breaks allow individuals to reconnect with their values, strengthen friendships, and restore perspective. Returning to dating when you feel grounded often leads to better experiences and clearer choices. Ultimately, dating with clarity and confidence helps you show up authentically. When you understand your values, communicate openly, set healthy boundaries, and treat yourself with respect, you create the conditions for meaningful connections to emerge. Dating becomes less about proving yourself and more about discovering what supports your growth and happiness. This approach reduces anxiety, increases satisfaction, and leads to relationships that reflect who you truly are, whether those connections are long-term, short-term, or simply opportunities to learn and grow. Chapter 9. Letting go of pressure and desperation. Many people enter the dating world feeling a strong sense of urgency, an internal countdown shaped by cultural expectations, personal timelines, or fear of missing out. This pressure can create desperation, which often leads to poor decisions, emotional overwhelm, and the belief that a relationship must be established as quickly as possible. Letting go of this pressure is essential for cultivating healthier experiences, clearer thinking, and more satisfying connections. When individuals reduce urgency, they become more capable of engaging authentically rather than out of fear. Pressure around dating often arises from internalized narratives about time. Messages like, "I should be partnered by now, everyone else is moving forward," or, "If this person doesn't work out, I'll run out of options," can easily dominate thinking. These beliefs create a sense of scarcity, making it seem as though romantic possibilities are limited or diminishing. In reality, the timing of relationships varies widely, and countless people meet partners later in life or at unexpected moments. Recognizing that personal timelines do not need to match societal expectations helps reduce the feeling of being behind. Desperation influences behavior in subtle but significant ways. When individuals feel pressured, they may overlook incompatibilities or red flags simply to avoid being alone. They may stay in relationships that do not align with their values, settle for situations that undermine their well-being, or suppress their needs to maintain harmony. This mindset stems from fear rather than intentional choice. Dating from a place of desperation can lead to relationships built on anxiety rather than genuine connection, which often results in dissatisfaction or emotional strain. One helpful step in releasing pressure is reframing what dating represents. Instead of viewing it as a race toward commitment, dating can be seen as a process of learning about yourself, about others, and about the dynamics that support healthy relationships. This perspective encourages curiosity rather than urgency. When individuals treat dating as a space for exploration, they naturally become more open, patient, and selective. This shift reduces stress and allows relationships to develop at a sustainable pace. Another key element in reducing desperation is cultivating a sense of internal stability. When people feel secure within themselves, supported by personal interests, friendships, values, and emotional resilience, they no longer rely on dating for a sense of identity or worth. Internal stability creates space to evaluate connections clearly rather than through the lens of fear. It also helps individuals approach dating with confidence, knowing that their happiness does not depend solely on whether a particular relationship succeeds. Setting realistic expectations also helps relieve pressure. Not every date needs to be exceptional, and not every connection must lead to a long-term relationship. Allowing space for imperfect interactions and natural fluctuations makes dating less stressful. Accepting that rejection, mismatch, and uncertainty are normal parts of the process creates emotional flexibility. Instead of interpreting a disappointing experience as a personal failure, individuals can view it as a natural outcome of exploring compatibility. Another effective strategy for reducing pressure is intentionally slowing down. Many people feel tempted to accelerate relationships, rushing into emotional intimacy, making early commitments, or idealizing potential partners. Slowing down allows space for clarity and reduces the likelihood of forming attachments based on hope rather than reality. Taking time to get to know someone, observing how they treat others, and checking in with your own feelings helps cultivate more stable and grounded connections. It is also important to limit comparisons. Constantly comparing one's dating life to peers, social media posts, or imagined timelines intensifies the feeling of falling behind. Comparisons rarely reflect true circumstances and often create unnecessary distress. Focusing on personal values, internal growth, and individual goals helps shift attention away from external benchmarks. This reduces the pressure to meet arbitrary milestones and supports a more authentic relationship with oneself. Letting go of pressure does not mean lowering standards or giving up the desire for a meaningful partnership. It means releasing the belief that happiness is conditional on meeting specific romantic deadlines. When urgency diminishes, individuals become more open to relationships that develop naturally, more selective about the partners they choose, and more present throughout the dating process. They also experience greater peace, as they are no longer fighting against themselves or an imaginary clock. Ultimately, releasing pressure and desperation creates space for healthier, more genuine relationships to emerge. When individuals date from a place of stability rather than fear, they bring their best selves into connections. They listen more clearly, choose more wisely, and approach relationships with curiosity instead of anxiety. Letting go of urgency does not reduce the likelihood of finding love. It increases the chances that the love found will be satisfying, balanced, and aligned with one's true values. Chapter 10. Choosing healthy partners and avoiding unhealthy patterns. One of the most important aspects of building a fulfilling romantic life is learning how to identify partners who support your well-being and recognizing patterns that lead to disappointment or emotional strain. Many people unknowingly repeat the same relationship cycles, choosing emotionally unavailable partners, ignoring early incompatibilities, or prioritizing attraction over deeper qualities. These patterns often stem from fear, loneliness, or the desire to validate oneself through a relationship. Choosing healthy partners requires clarity, self-awareness, and the willingness to prioritize long-term compatibility over short-term reassurance. A healthy partner is not simply someone who shows interest or affection. They are someone whose behaviors, values, and way of relating are compatible with your own. This includes qualities such as reliability, emotional availability, communication skills, respect for boundaries, and consistency between words and actions. Healthy relationships form when both individuals feel understood, valued, and supported. When these foundations are present, trust develops naturally and connection deepens over time. Unhealthy patterns often arise when early signs of incompatibility are minimized or ignored. For example, someone who frequently cancels plans, avoids difficult conversations, or shows inconsistent effort may be signaling a lack of readiness or emotional availability. Many people excuse these behaviors, hoping the connection will improve or fearing that expressing concern will drive the person away. However, overlooking these signs often leads to frustration and insecurity. Recognizing early patterns allows individuals to step away before becoming deeply attached to situations that are unlikely to meet their emotional needs. Another common unhealthy pattern is becoming overly invested in potential rather than reality. This happens when individuals focus on who they imagine a partner could become rather than who they currently are. While growth is natural in relationships, relying on potential often results in disappointment, especially if one partner feels pressured to change. Healthy connections arise from acceptance of each person as they currently are, not from efforts to mold someone into an idealized version. Self-awareness plays a central role in choosing healthy partners. When individuals understand their own values, needs, and vulnerabilities, they can more easily recognize what aligns with them and what does not. For example, someone who highly values emotional openness will struggle with a partner who avoids discussing feelings. Likewise, someone who values stability may feel unsafe with a partner who frequently changes plans or avoids commitment. Knowing your own priorities helps guide decisions that support long-term satisfaction. It is also important to approach dating with patience. Rushing into relationships can cloud judgment and make it difficult to evaluate compatibility. Emotional and physical chemistry can be powerful, but they do not necessarily indicate long-lasting potential. Taking time to observe how someone behaves in different situations, under stress, during conflict, or when responsibilities arise, provides essential information about their readiness for a healthy relationship. Slow, Steady pacing supports clearer decision-making and reduces the risk of becoming attached to someone who does not meet your needs. Another key factor in choosing healthy partners is recognizing your own patterns of attraction. Many people are drawn to familiarity, even when it is unhealthy. For instance, individuals who grew up around emotional inconsistency may feel drawn to partners who offer similar unpredictability because it feels exciting or familiar. Identifying these patterns allows individuals to question whether their attractions align with their long-term well-being or simply reflect old emotional habits. Healthy relationships require mutual effort. A partner who is willing to communicate openly, address conflicts respectfully, and grow alongside you creates a foundation for lasting connection. Conversely, partners who dismiss concerns, avoid responsibility, or rely on you to carry the emotional weight of the relationship can create imbalance and exhaustion. Evaluating effort, not just good intentions, helps determine whether a partnership has the ingredients needed for stability. Learning to walk away is just as important as learning to stay. Letting go of a connection that is inconsistent, unfulfilling, or misaligned with your values is an act of self-care, not failure. Ending unbalanced relationships creates space for healthier ones to emerge and reinforces the belief that your needs matter. This mindset encourages individuals to seek partners who respect and support them rather than tolerating dynamics that undermine their confidence or happiness. Choosing healthy partners is ultimately about building a foundation of respect, alignment, and mutual investment. It involves trusting yourself, honoring your values, and recognizing that emotional well-being is more important than rushing toward partnership. When individuals prioritize compatibility, communication, and emotional health, they create the conditions for relationships that are stable, fulfilling, and deeply supportive. Whether a partner enters your life soon or later, these principles ensure that your connections reflect the care and clarity you have cultivated within yourself. Conclusion: creating a life you don't need to escape. Happiness is often framed as something that arrives once the right person enters your life, but this idea limits both personal growth and emotional well-being. Throughout these chapters, the central message has been clear: your relationship status does not determine your capacity for joy, purpose, or fulfillment. Building a satisfying life begins with understanding yourself, caring for your emotional health, and making intentional choices that reflect your values, not with waiting for external validation. By challenging the myths surrounding singlehood, you gain the freedom to form your own definitions of success and happiness. Internal pressures, cultural expectations, and self-criticism lose power when you recognize that your worth is not contingent on being chosen by someone else. Understanding that happiness is influenced far more by your habits, mindset, and relationships with yourself and others allows you to redirect your energy toward what truly supports your well-being. Developing skills such as mindfulness, acceptance, and self-compassion gives you tools for managing difficult emotions without being controlled by them. These practices create emotional stability that benefits all areas of life, not only singlehood, but also future relationships. When you learn to treat yourself with respect and care, you strengthen your resilience and increase your capacity for healthy connection. Living according to your values transforms your daily experience. Instead of waiting for a relationship to validate your choices or give your life direction, you create a foundation built on what matters most to you. This foundation makes life fuller and more meaningful, regardless of whether a partner is part of it. It also prepares you for healthier, more authentic relationships when the time is right. Expanding your sources of connection ensures that your emotional needs are met through a supportive network rather than relying solely on a romantic partner. Friendships, community, family, and personal interests all contribute to a balanced, fulfilling life. When these elements are strong, the urgency to find a partner diminishes, and dating becomes a space of curiosity rather than pressure. Approaching dating with clarity, confidence, and patience makes the process more sustainable and less emotionally draining. Instead of chasing validation, you evaluate compatibility, maintain boundaries, and trust your instincts. When you let go of desperation and choose partners thoughtfully, you open the door to healthier, more balanced relationships, connections built on shared values, mutual respect, and emotional availability. Ultimately, being single is not a problem to solve. It is a life stage that holds its own opportunities for growth, joy, and self-discovery. When you stop postponing happiness, you free yourself to live fully in the present. You learn to appreciate your life as it is while remaining open to what may come. If a relationship enters your life, it becomes an addition to a foundation that is already strong, not the source of your self-worth or the center of your identity. The goal is not to reject love, but to refuse the belief that love is the only pathway to happiness. By creating a life rooted in purpose, connection, and self-respect, you ensure that your well-being does not depend on external circumstances. You build a life you do not need to escape, a life that is fulfilling on its own and enriched, not defined, by the relationships that enter it. Your story does not begin when you meet someone. It is unfolding now, in every choice you make, every value you honor, and every step you take toward becoming the person you want to be.